You're not stuck. It just feels like you are. Because every day looks similar. Every attempt feels familiar. Every reset brings you back to the same place. So you tell yourself something is wrong. You tell yourself you're stuck. But that's not accurate. You're not stuck. You're repeating. Look at your pattern closely. Not what you say you want to do, but what you actually do. You start something. You feel a shift. There's a moment where it feels different. Like maybe this time it will hold. Maybe this time things will move forward. And for a short period, they do. You're more focused, more disciplined, more aware. But then something happens. Not something big, something small. You lose a little energy. You get slightly distracted. You break the rhythm just once. And that's where everything changes. Not because of the mistake, but because of what comes after it. You don't continue. You reset. You tell yourself you'll start again tomorrow. You tell yourself it'll be cleaner that way, more structured, more intentional. But what you're really doing is returning to the beginning, again. And the next day feels exactly like the last one. Not because you didn't try, but because you restarted the cycle. You removed all momentum, all progress, all continuity, and replaced it with another beginning. This is where most people misunderstand their situation. They think they're failing. They think something is wrong with them. They think they lack discipline. But that's not what's happening. You're not failing. You're interrupting. Failure is clear. Failure is visible. This is quieter than that. This is repetition of the same decisions, the same reactions, the same patterns. You're not blocked. You're looping. And because you're still putting in effort, it feels like progress. But effort without direction just repeats the same outcome. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This isn't about obstacles being useful. It's about what you do when you meet them. Because the obstacle isn't what breaks you, it reveals you. Every time something interrupts your progress, that's the moment that defines the pattern. Not when everything is going well, not when you feel focused, not when things are easy, but when it breaks. Because everything breaks. Focus breaks, energy breaks, consistency breaks. That's normal. That's expected. That's part of the process. But your reaction to that break is what decides everything. You miss one day, and instead of continuing, you restart. You feel resistance, and instead of moving through it, you avoid. You lose momentum, and instead of maintaining what's left, you abandon it completely. That's the loop, and it's subtle, because each decision feels small, each reset feels harmless, each delay feels justified, but stacked together, they create a pattern, and that pattern becomes your reality. Over time, something else happens, something deeper. You start losing trust in yourself, not consciously, but internally, quietly. Every time you say, "This time I'll stay consistent," and don't, something weakens. Every time you set a standard and adjust it later, something shifts. Every time you break your own word and move past it, you reinforce that behavior. And eventually, you stop believing yourself. Not completely, but enough that it matters. Enough that starting feels heavier. Enough that committing feels uncertain. Enough that progress feels unlikely. Not because you're incapable, but because you've trained yourself to restart instead of continue. This is the real cost. Not the missed days, not the lost time, not the imperfect effort. The loss of self-trust. Because without that, nothing holds. So the solution isn't more motivation. Motivation fades. It always does. The solution isn't a new system. You've tried systems. They don't fix this. The solution is simpler, but harder to accept. Stop restarting. Continue. Continue after the mistake. Continue after the missed day. Continue after the break in rhythm. Continue when it feels off. Continue when it feels imperfect. Continue when it's slower than you want. Because progress doesn't come from perfect runs. It comes from refusing to reset, from staying inside the process, even when it's not clean, even when it's not ideal, even when it doesn't feel right. That's where momentum is built. That's where trust is rebuilt. That's where identity starts to change. You're not stuck, you're repeating. And the moment you break that pattern, even once, everything begins to shift. Not dramatically, not all at once, but directionally. And direction is what you've been missing this entire time. So don't start over, continue. That's the move.